Suresh Chandra, he's done many things, right from the coffee business to healthcare to IT to real estate. That's his latest one now. He has enormous amount of experience in taking companies public, both in India as well as US. So he started companies, took them public, that had listed in BSE, listed in NASDAQ. So he has enormous experience exiting companies as well, not just growing the companies. The second speaker of the day is Mr. Vikram Uppala. Vikram, probably the youngest speaker in the line of sessions that we have right now. He started this company called Net4 Plus, basically a dialysis center, a very focused dialysis center. It's on healthcare. They've done very good marketing and attracted a lot of attention. So we have Vikram coming in and talking about his experiences and a little bit of marketing. And the last speaker we have is Chiranjeevi Navuluri. He runs this company called Tech Edge Solutions. They're very, very focused on providing sales and marketing support to young entrepreneurs. So he's the one who actually runs a shop that does marketing dedicatedly, nothing else. These will be the speakers for the day. The next session is on, anybody remembers the date? I think it's on 10th November. Right? You guys are all in on 10th November. Diwali vacation is next week. After that is a session, next session. 10th November is fine? No classes? I heard November is kind of tough for exams for Oak Ridge. So I have to remind you guys. So what do you want? 10th November, yes for a class or need changes? I need to know right now. Only two of you?
There is one.
More to come? Can we at least settle this by end of the class so that we can plan for that? So the next session that we are planning is funding, basically on finance, how do you actually bring capital into the company. We're planning an offsite at FIT. The next session will be at FIT. We'll let you know the dates once we discuss with the guys and then we'll know the date. How many people stay closer to IIT or which going? Okay. Yeah. Right. So the plan is we will run Rockwell's bus. We'll run Rockwell bus from here to IIT. So you could take a ride, status quo. So your parents will just drop you here, and you take a bus ride from here to IIT. If you stay closer to IIT, you can come on your own. That's also a choice. But we will have the bus run from here all the way to IIT. Okay, and we'll bring you back and drop you here. So if we are doing it off-site, then it will be like 15 minutes ahead of time. Instead of 9, we expect the bus will leave at about 8:45 so that we can reach when by 9. Alright, once we have the login on the dates, we'll let you know. Alright, we have Suresh here. Let me introduce Suresh. He's presently Managing Director, Promoter for real estate company SSPDL. PDL, right? Just gave them an introduction about your past, your ventures into we'll talk about your tenure taking companies public, both in India and also as well as US experience. So here we have Suresh. Please, Suresh.
Good morning, guys. Actually, I have a PowerPoint that I would run through.
Okay, I'll do it.
So be a third class or third session. So how's it going so far? You guys liking it? Enjoying it, or you are here because your parents are asking you to do it? Can a bit of both? You're here on your own? That's very good. I presume everybody's like that? Great. So, just so that I know who's where, 9th graders, how many? 10? 11? And 12? Pretty good. We have a mix of everybody. Great. Okay. I don't know if we can set this up. What you're saying. And so let me start off. So basically, who am I? Actually, I am a little delusional, but I am an entrepreneur. And my journey started basically in Hyderabad. And I was born and brought up in Hyderabad. I did my engineering in JNTU, Hyderabad, I did mechanical engineering. And in 1982, I went to US. I went to Texas, University of Texas. I did masters in industrial engineering. And for folks who don't know what industrial engineering is, we try to figure out how a process can be more efficient. And it can be any process actually. And so from Texas, I went to California, Silicon Valley. That was the place to be in the early 80s. Semiconductors were just coming up, and I was fortunate to get a job at National Semiconductor. And I was a process engineer because of my industrial background. I figured I could do some good there. And I was there for about 4 years. And then, the so-called entrepreneurship bug bit me. And in 1988, I came back to India. I came back to India. That was the time when my brother actually had an idea of starting an instant coffee manufacturing plant in Hyderabad. And a lot of people don't know this, but instant coffee is actually a fairly involved process. A lot of people think that coffee means you just take some beans, grind them, and pack them, and sell them. It actually doesn't happen that way. So it's basically a chemical process. You actually have to extract the coffee out of the coffee bean, and then you get a liquid form, and then you take that liquid and dry it essentially. So basically you get a powder, and that's what brew and Nescafe sell. So that company was called Asian Coffee, and in 1992 we actually sold the company to Tata's. And during that time, actually, it was very strange that people would think of selling companies. And we actually were fortunate that during that time, ITC, I don't know if you guys know the company ITC, is a very large cigarette company, and now they are diversified into various things. At that point in time, they wanted to get into the coffee business. So they actually came to us and offered to partner with us, and we were quite excited. And then the partnering talks turned into that they wanted to actually buy us. That was the time Tata found out that ITC wanted to buy us. And they came in and stopped ITC from getting into the coffee business, and they acquired us. And between those two biddings, we actually made quite a bit of money. And so that was a good thing. Just before that, we actually had gone public, and in the very first year we were profitable. Our focus was mainly on exports. The reason why we actually picked exports was, there was a need in India at that time to get foreign exchange. And a lot of companies in India were only, there were actually only two companies, Nescafe and Groupon. They were primarily looking at the Indian market, whereas what we did was we took the raw coffee which India generates and made a value-added product out of it. And then found that there is a lot of market for that in the developed world, like US and Europe, and that's what we did. We actually sold to Nescafe in US, while Nescafe had a factory here in Hyderabad or in India. We were successful in selling it to them there. both based on quality and on pricing. So that's the reason why they picked us. And because of our success, ITC wanted us, and then eventually Tata's acquired us. After Tata's acquired us in '92, I decided to go back to US. And there was a time when I just got married, and my wife was also from US, and she wanted to go back, so we decided to go back then. And since I had already kind of tasted some success in starting companies, I hooked up with a friend of mine who was a classmate in engineering in Hyderabad, and we started a company called Postmodern Computing. Postmodern Computing was basically one of the first companies to take advantage of C++ and object-oriented programming. And that was the time when people were talking about how software is going to be developed using components rather than traditional way of coding. And that actually was a time when Java came along, and we were the first company to use Java to provide a communication mechanism which all the browsers started using. So there was a company called Netscape. Unfortunately, none of you know today. You do? Very good. They were like Google today. How everybody knows Google. In those days, everybody knew Netscape. It was exactly like that. And our claim to fame was Netscape embedded our software in the browser. So instantly we had like millions of people using our software, and that was very good exposure for us. So we actually got an offer from a company called Vizigen, and they acquired us for $30 million. Immediately after acquiring us, we actually went public on Nasdaq. So 3 months after our acquisition, we went public on Nasdaq in August of '96. When we went public, we were billed as one of the first internet companies to go public. In those days, internet was just about starting. People really didn't know what internet was and what it is going to do. And so our software helped, basically communicate with any computer without any botheration of what language it is written in or what system it is running in. So that was kind of our, main software which helped us go public. Then eventually, Vizigen got acquired by Borland. Again, I don't know how many people know Borland. They are a very large company. And after Borland acquired us, I decided to start another company called Personal MD. And Personal MD was basically a company meant for automating medical records. If you think about it, if you are traveling somewhere and some accident happens and you end up going to an emergency room, if you are not able to speak, the doctor really doesn't know what your previous condition is. He wouldn't know if you are allergic to, say, penicillin. He wouldn't know anything about you. So we came up with a system where people can actually store their medical records online. So the idea was that you carry a card with you, and anywhere you go, you will be able to, or whoever has the card will be able to access your medical records. And our system actually saved lives. There were 2 instances where one was an emergency personnel who ran into a fire site, and he ended up himself getting hurt. And fortunately, he had the card in his wallet, and people saw that, and then they got online, got his records, and found out that he actually had diabetes and all kinds of other ailments, and they actually managed to treat him well and save him. And that actually got a lot of press because clearly when you save lives, that's what matters most to those people. And so that company, we actually had over 1 million subscribers, and then we were eventually acquired by a company called Executive Health Group. It's a New York-based company, and that happened in around 2003, and that's when I decided to come back to India again. And actually, when I came back to India, I really didn't want to get into any other business other than do some investments and play golf. But over a period of time, eventually I kind of got involved in this company called SSPDL. where we're essentially a real estate construction company. While this is happening, I have also invested in a few other companies and co-founded another company called Fortune Biotech. Fortune Biotech is basically a company which provides organic pesticide. So we actually, from the neem tree, from the neem seed, we extract a biochemical called azadirachtin. And azadirachtin is a fantastic pesticide. It is mainly used for controlling all kinds of pests. And so it is so harmless that people can actually eat it and still not have any effect. It is such a safe pesticide. So that pesticide is actually now being manufactured in Hyderabad. If you ever go to Yadagiri-Gutta, you can see just before the railway track, you will see a factory there. That's our factory. We primarily export to US and Europe. The product is used by organic farmers. So organic farmers means they are not supposed to use any chemicals. But what happens is organic farmers also will get a lot of pests and all that. So there is no way for them to control those pests. So that's what we provide. We provide a safe pesticide which they can use and still claim that they are an organic product. So the company is doing okay. So that's basically my journey. And so what I thought I'd do next is, this is kind of to give you where all you will be going in the future. Obviously, I guess you guys are somewhere there, and I'm somewhere there, and I have a few more wheels to take. So I've lived a long life, and I've learned a few lessons. So I figured I'd share some of them with you. One of them is what I call attachment detachment. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. It's actually very Hindu philosophical thing. Basically, you should not be afraid of losing it. Even if you lose everything, you should still be able to come back up. And so as long as you're not attached to something, if you are saying you have an iPhone and you really love it, and if you lose it, that's not the end of the world. So you should be able to get it back. Some form or other. So as long as you understand that you're not scared to lose everything, then you will be able to take risks. And so an entrepreneur basically is taking a huge risk. If you think about it, because an entrepreneur is doing something which most people don't do. That is, leave their secure jobs and try to come up with an idea which they really believe in it, and then start convincing others that whatever you come up with, that everybody wants it. So a lot of people won't believe you, so you need to feel that okay, even if this doesn't work, something else will work. And obviously it will help you in understanding uncertainty. Yeah, and it also keeps you cool. You're not too attached to something. If something fails, it's okay, we can move on. So down to learn is something which is very critical, I think. If you figure out that there is a process to learning, and if you figure that out, then you'll be fine. No matter what the situation is, if you learn something out of that situation, it's the best thing that could happen to you. So it may not be very clear for you right now, but over a period of time you will figure it out that every situation actually is some kind of lesson. And if you can figure that out, the earlier you figure out, the better it is. And I don't know how many of you have heard this. How many of you heard this? Great. For the few who have not heard this, it is always better to teach skills rather than to give charity. So always, an entrepreneur, that's what he does. He provides jobs, he provides people's livelihoods, whole lot of things. And Clearly the fish don't like this. I don't know if you can read that. It's very, very important when you're starting on any kind of business or whatever it is. It is not a single person thing, it is a team effort. And having the right people on the team is extremely important. And you have to have a good team. Without a good team, you will never be successful. And you have to know who you are playing with. Because on your team, you have to have people who kind of think like you or are at least in the same wavelength. And at the same time, they provide something which you don't have. So if someone is good technically, that's good. But if you are also technically good and the other guy also is only technically good and that's the only two skills you have, that's not a great team. So you have to have one guy who is good in say sales and marketing, another guy who is good in the technical stuff, someone who understands how money works, and that's the kind of team you should be looking for. Or if even in a technical team, if both of you only know Java and nothing else, that's not going to help. So you need to have one guy who knows Java well, another guy who knows databases well, another guy who knows networking, whatever. So that's what I mean by saying that you need to know who you're playing with. And it's very, very important that if you have the right team, even if you fail the first time around, you will come back again. And that is very critical. So working together as a team is, I cannot overemphasize that. So what's marketing? Marketing actually is combination of sales and marketing. And so essentially it's for products to be successful, if you don't have sales or if you can't market it well, then no matter how great the product is, it's never going to have to sell. And so there is a difference between sales and marketing. How many people would know? Anybody? Is there a difference between sales and marketing? Go ahead.
Sales is basically just selling a product, but marketing involves advertising.
Right. Yeah, in a way. Basically, marketing is to make people aware of your product and create an interest in your product. And then that's when people will get in your door. So that is what marketing is. So marketing clearly is something which will attract people to your product. And sales is the actual process of selling. So that's the time when money gets exchanged and you give your product out. That's what is called sales. So if you think about it, say Samsung is advertising and there's a new phone out there. So they have advertised or you've seen it somewhere or someone told you about it, and so now you're interested. So that was the marketing part, and you actually have to go to a store. So you go to a store and the guy in the counter, he's actually selling it. So he's the sales guy. And in larger organizations, this kind of gets very complicated. The sales part and the marketing part. So no matter what it is, nothing will sell by itself. So you have to have promotions. You have to, no matter how paid or must-have the thing you have provided, people are not going to come to you automatically. So you have to be very sure about it. Because if you think about it, why does Nike or Samsung or Ford, all of them promote themselves? In spite of everybody knowing it, you still have to constantly tell people what you have. So that's what marketing does. So you have to market your product. And I guess today that's what we're going to talk about. So what's marketing? If you think about marketing as say you have a service and you want to call it say super service. Now that's branding. And you paint a sign says that super service is coming to town, and so that's essentially advertising. And if you put a sign on the back of an elephant, and make it walk to Julius, then that's promotion. And if you can get that elephant to walk with Mahesh Babu in KBR Park, that's publicity. And if you can get the newspapers and TV channels to write about that, that's public relations. And if you had planned all this ahead of time, that's marketing. So marketing is not just advertising; it's a whole lot of things. Awareness in multiple ways, so the marketing basics are basically for people to get advertising. As I said, is one thing, and obviously you can't have ads like stupid by this. And collateral, brochures, ad websites, things like that are all part of the marketing. And the most important thing in marketing is word of mouth. No matter how much you advertise or how much you do promotion, unless people are talking about it, your product is not going to be successful. No matter what, half the people here probably came to know about this session because someone else told you about it. That's word of mouth. A friend of yours told, hey, there's this cool thing that's happening, let's go join that. That's word of mouth. TIE has not done any advertising. They have not done any newspaper reports, nothing. But 40 people are here. How did that happen? Think about it. It's all about word of mouth. So word of mouth is absolutely critical. Unless people are talking about it, it's not going to be successful. Only when people start talking about it, it gets successful. How did WhatsApp become what it is today? People said, oh, this is a cool app, you can all share messages. Facebook, all these things, it's all about word of mouth. It's not really about advertising and things like that. Obviously, advertising, that happens also, but word of mouth is the most critical. So, and of course, how you position your product matters a lot. In this cartoon, you can see that it's the same product, fire, but they branded it in different ways. Cooking fire, heating fire, lighting fire, etc. So all these aspects go into what is marketing. And it's very critical to know your customers. You obviously can't sell an ice maker to an Eskimo. It just doesn't make sense. So you have to be clear on who is the one who is going to use your product. So if you don't understand your customer well, then again you will never be successful. So it is very, very critical that you understand what is called market segmentation. So you have to know who your target audience is, and you can't just say that I'll sell to everybody. Everybody really does need everything else. There will be always specific people, and at certain point in time, only certain people will buy certain goods. For example, if it is running shoes, Nike makes running shoes. Everybody needs shoes, but Nike targets it for teenagers, for older people. That's what is called target audience. Market segmentation is very important. And clearly, you should understand what your customer needs are. If the customer is looking for a tire, you propose something else that really doesn't work. Although it might look similar, but it's not what the customer wants. And it's very important, how you package your product. Packaging is very, very critical. You might call it his obese but solidly built. That's kind of marketing. That's what marketing does. Puts a good spin on even a bad situation. And there is something called unfair advantage. You have to figure out what is that you have which others don't have, and that's where competition comes in. And an entrepreneur essentially what does he do? He's an idea generator and a risk taker. And so you should not be, afraid to fail. Like I said, things will happen, things will fly when everything else falls in place. So don't be afraid to fail. Here, look at this great companies, Apple and Google. They have all these products that are failed. So when companies like Apple and Google can fail, first generation entrepreneur failing, first time is no big deal. But stopping where you failed is not good enough. So don't be afraid, move forward, have the right team, and you will succeed. I think that's my last point. Any questions? Sure, go ahead.
So you did speak of failure, but however your journey does, as such you never experienced failure. So how could you advise?
Actually, that's not true. I mean, we were kind of lucky in some sense. There were a lot of times in the businesses where, in our business, where we thought we have to shut the door. In my second company, the software company, when we started out, we actually started out with another product. Early 90s, there was this new handheld computer called Palm. Again, not many people might not know this. Palm was a handheld system. Basically, it was like our PDA, except there was no phone in it. And they had an operating system called the Pen Node. So we first started the company with that intention. Thought that this is a new great thing that's going to happen. So of course those days people didn't call it apps, but that's what we were doing, developing an app for Palm. Our idea of an app for Palm came about when we were talking to a healthcare company. There is in Los Angeles there is a company called VNA, Visiting Nurses Association. So what they do is they send nurses to old people's homes. And so LA being such a big place, in those days the nurse had to go from her home to the office, pick up a file for that particular patient's visit, and then go to the patient's house, go check in, and then come back to the office and then file the report, and then go to the next patient. So there was a lot of travel time that used to happen. And so we came up with the idea that how about if we create a pen-based system where she doesn't have to come to the office, but in the Palm system we will create an app where that all the records are going to be already pre-fed, and then all she has to do is go directly to the patient's house, check in, input all that, and then come back home and use the modem and then upload it into the system. That was our first application. And after spending a lot of time in developing everything, we were not able to succeed. We were not able to succeed primarily because at that point in time, the VNA Association ran out of money, so they didn't have much money. And so they were not able to afford it. And by the time we could find out who else can use this system, we didn't have money to go do that one thing. And that's when we kind of regrouped and thought about, okay, what else can we be doing? And that's how we came up with this other. In fact, this thing came about when we had to upload stuff from one computer to another computer. This whole discussion came about, what if this is an IBM computer, what if this is an HP computer, how do you talk to all these things? So to help us solve that problem, we had actually created internally one, basically a platform. And we used that platform to come up with what we did eventually, which went into the browsers. So that's why I said, even if you think that you're failing, if you have the right team, you'll always figure out how to salvage what you have. And that's very important.
Why did you sell your companies if you're doing well?
Why did we sell the companies?
Because you said you're doing well in that.
Right. Well, the first company was Asian Coffee. We got an offer we could not refuse. 7 times of what we had invested we were offered. And there was no way we would make that kind of money even if we ran it for 15 years. And so that's what happens. Now, when you create value, people will see the value and what you think. See, in every business, in order to grow the business, you can make it successful, but in order to grow it to higher levels, it needs more investment. So more investment essentially means that you have to put from your own pocket, obviously, and also keep looking for investment. So it's a constant cycle that goes on. So we felt that the amount of money we can make by selling in such a short time was much more than what you can make in running it for another 10 years. And that's what happens in most companies. They get acquired. The reason they get acquired is because they have created value very quickly to a point where it satisfies first their goal, and also at the same time you are part of a bigger company which will actually take the product to a higher levels, and that's what generally happens.
So follow-on question to that aspect. Will marketing help you in any way get that valuation of Ceramax?
Absolutely. See, as I said, if we had not got Netscape as a customer, our valuation would not have gone up. And the reason we got Netscape in the first place was because we created this buzz in the Java world at that time. And Java had just come about, and so we made sure we were in every Java conference as a speaker, or we didn't have money actually, we didn't have a whole lot of money. We did all kinds of stuff. We used to go to these conferences and take our brochures, and in fact we used to go leave them in desks here and there in the hope that somebody will pick it up. And because in order to have a booth, it would cost a lot of money. We didn't have money to even do that in the initial days. So we would stand outside the exit doors and hand over people these brochures. Those kind of stuff we did. But that's all part of the creation of the idea is to create the buzz, create the word of mouth, create, and that's all part of marketing. So without marketing, obviously nothing will happen. Oh yeah, those really helpful. In fact, that's how we got one of the people in Netscape picked that up, and then they read about it, and then they gave a call, and that actually moved forward things faster.
When you sold your company, how many people were working with you or in your company?
Different companies, different times. In Asian Coffee, we had almost about 400 people working. In Visicenic, we had about 200 people at that time. And Personal MD, we had about 70 people.
Is your real estate construction company still going on?
Yes, it is.
So if you got an offer that really good offer, would you accept it?
See, in real estate business, it is not quite the same because see, the reason why people actually acquire companies is because they want something which others you can't get elsewhere. Whereas in real estate company, you really don't need. There are no entries to barrier. So anybody can be a real estate company, so to speak. So there is no real value in terms of someone acquiring the company for the sake of acquiring.
Why did you start the company when it was so common?
Actually, I didn't start a company. I kind of joined my brother in that business. But real estate business is quite different than most of the other businesses. It is it's like movie business. Every project you can have multiple new players coming, and you can create a new company or a new subsidiary of a new company, and then do a project. And then after the project is done, you're pretty much done. Say you're building an apartment complex. In order first you identify the land, and then you need money to buy the land. So you need money to build the apartment, and then you need somebody to sell those apartments. And once all of that is done,
and you hand over the apartment complex, there's really nothing to do. So the company can disband also at that point.
Do you think there's a lot of over-marketing around the real estate segments, or do you think there is any way, can you call anything an over-marketing or a hype?
Oh, hype is definitely there. Hype is, it is over-marketing in the sense that, you're promising more than you can deliver, and that's generally what hype is. I don't want to pick any particular company, but I can't avoid not doing it. I'm sure all of you have seen signs for alien construction, and in my opinion, they have created hype. Because it's been like 7 years now since they've been advertising, and if you actually go to the construction site, it's still kind of happening, but it'll take some more time. So in my opinion, yes, although I shouldn't be saying that to my competitor or my own.
Do you see any pros and cons time for hype versus how?
If you're asking is over publicity good or bad, there is no such thing as over publicity. But clearly, over publicity doesn't necessarily mean hype. As I said, hype is something which you promise and you cannot deliver. So if you say that you have January 1st, I'm going to deliver something, and even February 1st comes in and you're still saying January 1st I deliver, clearly that's BS, and that's what happens in hype. But over publicity, there is really no such thing. No matter how much publicity, in fact, in the movie business, even bad publicity is considered good publicity.
That was my next question.
Right.
Negative publicity.
Right. In movie business, though, not all businesses.
Onida did that. Onida did that.
Well, Onida, what they did is not bad publicity. What they did is they took a negative. It was not always a positive message. They took a negative message and turned it around. Being envious of your neighbor or things like that. But that's very different than bad publicity. Bad publicity is, if, like for example, Tylenol. Tylenol was this headache medicine. Somebody had poisoned it and put these, these poisoned tablets on the shelf, and somebody took it and died. That's bad publicity. Whereas in the movie business, what they say is that there is no such thing as bad publicity, because they actually create controversies so that people hear about it. So when people hear about it, then you go watch the movie. So for them, that's what matters. Any which way you come in, because the shelf life of a movie is very short. Literally a few weeks. If nobody talks about it, then it dies a natural death. So they want to create as much publicity, good or bad, they really don't care.
Did you start another software company called Unitrax or something?
Well, Personal MD was actually Neotrax.
Oh.
Neotrax was the name of the company, Personal MD was the product.
What's the difference between real estate and construction?
Construction is obviously the physical construction like a contractor. Real estate business is first identifying the land, figuring out what you want to do, build a hotel or you want to build a mall or apartments or what. And then trying to find out who you're going to sell it to, what pricing you're going to put it at, and all of that is real estate. And once you do that, then you have to actually construct it. So you have to then call a construction company or a contractor, as they call it. So there are two distinct businesses.
You kind of give some names so that they are more familiar.
Sure. L&T is a construction company. My Home is a real estate company. Anybody else?
No questions, please?
after social media marketing? Are there any differences, or is it worldwide in the new model?
Look, definitely there are differences. Today, social media is absolutely the key. Even traditional businesses have to get onto social media. The best part about social media is it gives wide coverage almost instantaneously, and so you have to be both careful as well as clever at the same time on how you use social media. It is not just advertising alone. In fact, advertising is probably going to get hurt in the longer period of time. One, because it is very expensive, and two, because it is kind of not very effective. The big difference between social media and general advertising is, in general advertising, you really don't know who is actually looking at it. Whereas in social media, you can actually do a lot of interesting things and kind of pick and choose who you want to talk to and who you don't want to talk to. So that's a major difference which social media is providing.
So the last question. So in your personal life, as you relate to everything that you have done, what percentage of time and effort that you have spent in your companies on marketing as opposed to product creation or engineering services?
Not enough actually. Not enough time. In my view, marketing and sales together should constitute almost 50% of the time. And generally, that's not what happens in real life. In real life, most people focus more on the product that they have made, and then they do what is called polishing the apple. They've already created something, but they feel it is not perfect yet for people to buy. So they keep on working on it and adding more features and more features and more features without really testing out in the market. And a lot of companies fail because of that. So if you ask me, how much did I do? I learned, kind of at the third company that, that's why in personal MBA I spent much more on marketing than the earlier two companies. And for all of you, if you have a product or an idea, start talking about it, keep talking about it to everybody and anybody, and that's all part of it. Marketing.
Thank you very much for such
Thank you.
wonderful insights. And
Go ahead.
Do you believe that marketing is more important than product creation as such? Because, for example, Apple in the late 90s, it really did not have much innovation as such. It was more of a movement rather. It had a fan following, a base created due to the marketing.
Actually, that's not true. For Apple, in 1984, they created one ad. That was their first marketing effort. Before that, nobody knew about Apple. And there was just about 15-second ad which they had put in Super Bowl game. And basically the ad had nothing other than this one young girl with a huge hammer. She comes and throws this hammer on a screen, it says IBM on the screen, and she has an Apple logo. That was the first time they have advertised, and that particular ad is remembered even today because there was a very powerful message, essentially saying that there is a small company which is going to kill this big company, and everybody started talking about it, and in fact Apple got a lot of publicity because of that ad. So it's not true that Apple didn't do any marketing. In fact, they are probably the best marketeers, or one of the best marketeers in the world.
I wanted to know whether marketing was more important. Brand value as such today is like more than the actual.
Marketing is what creates brand value. Right? So branding comes because of marketing. See, marketing is this big umbrella. Marketing is not only advertising. So if that's the impression I've given you, I'm sorry, but marketing is not only advertising. In fact, advertising is a small part of marketing. Creating buzz, creating anything about the way the logo is marketing. The name itself is part of the branding exercise. The person who's speaking about it is part of the marketing team. So all of that is marketing. Go ahead.
But actually Samsung spends 400% more on advertising than Apple. But if you see in New York City, people stand in lines 3 days before Apple even done it. If you have an iPhone 5 launch, people stand in line to buy an iPhone but not a Samsung.
You're absolutely right. In fact, that's what tells you that advertising alone is not good enough. So advertising is not good enough. That's what even I'm trying to tell you. How do you create that brand is what marketing does. So there are companies which don't even advertise but people buy their products. And that's what marketing is. Anybody else?
All right.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a break. 2 minutes back, we'll come back and assemble at the same place. All right. Thank you.
What happened the previous week as well as the first session today. Okay. For the second speaker comes today, we'll actually talk about what we have learned, especially the previous week. What was the theme of the previous week?
Opportunity recognition.
Opportunity creation, or opportunity identification. So, have you seen, how many of you received this email giving the details about the event, how the presentation as well as the videos and so on? All of you received, right? How many of you read or gone through that material? Partially, at least? Okay. Good. So is there any example that you can think of? Opportunity identification?
Identification could be becoming an entrepreneur, and creation is like giving employment.
No. I'm talking about examples of a company or a product that actually leveraged or identified an opportunity there.
Apple in 2012 in the icon back to the like 2000 music players.
Mhm.
So we did not use that when I have to use it all the time.
Right.
That was all.
Okay. Good example. And then let's connect that to marketing. How many of you know a classic advertisement that went to market iPod? Anybody knows? Okay, you remember the situation at that time? I mean, what is the context? Everybody, each one of them for about an hour. If you turn the cassette that side, 30 minutes, A side 30 minutes, B side 30 minutes. And then CD about an hour, at most 90 minutes. Right? So the first advertisement that went on for Apple iPod way back is the first thing that they said, like 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's the only line that hit all the billboards. 1,000 songs in your pocket. And such a small iPod fitting in your pocket, it carries 1,000 songs. Today 1,000 songs is nothing. But at that time, 10 songs versus 1,000 songs, 100x value that is coming to the customers. Right? So very effective marketing. So identifying an opportunity and marketing it well. Good. So what opportunity creation? Anything on that? What do you think is an opportunity creation?
You take an existing problem and try to solve it.
then that is opportunity identification, right?
Making something new altogether.
Huh?
Making something new altogether. Like, for example, let's say iPad. That is something new.
Very good. Again, example from Apple. iPad is opportunity creation. There were PCs, laptops, even netbooks, the smaller laptops. And then there are the smartphones, iPhone or other smartphones. There is actually no need of iPad. Okay? So, but then there are people who are like, who felt smartphones are too small and then PCs are too big or laptops are too big. Okay? There are few people, perhaps, and most people don't even notice it. Forget about being vocal about it, right? Most people didn't even notice that this is life, we accept it. So Steve Jobs is also attributed for something great. You know, there's somebody metaphorically said, Steve Jobs is great at identifying holes in your soul. Okay? Identifying holes in your soul. So we are quite happy, content, we don't even know what we are missing. But then he comes and creates a hole. Come on, you don't have this. This is very important, this is very cool. Right? The moment somebody tells you that I don't have that, and that is going to be very, very interesting, important, cool, things like that, then you start feeling lack of it, you know, that I don't have an iPad. Until that situation came, you're perfectly happy. You don't have any complaints. But the moment somebody's created a hole in your soul, now you start thinking that you cannot live without it. That's where iPad came into picture. Now there is a new space that is created, which was never there before. Then that is opportunity creation. Then, now let's actually ask another question. Is it hard or difficult to market